You've got a problem with me? Because I definitely have a problem with you. MMA Grudge Match is a show that takes real-life beefs, grudges, disagreements, airs out both sides of the situation, and the issue is settled in the cage. The key in this process is mixed martial arts. MMA provides the physical release with the training that leads to discipline, and once the fight is over, closure to a bad situation. Hosted by Chevy, MMA Grudge Match takes cases that can't be handled in small claims court, that slip through the cracks of the law and need closure. Harassment, girlfriend infringement, the rumor mill, etc. Once the fight is over, the competitors shake hands, walk away, grudge over.
MMA Grudge Match came about from a real-life grudge being taken out in the cage. We decided to extend it beyond the cage and actually get real-life grudges into the cage.
In this edition of MMA Grudge Match, we go to Crystal, Minnesota. Now, the owner of the Crystal Fight Club, James Clark, has a grudge against this man, Justin Smith, of Wabasha, Minnesota. The two men faced off earlier this year in Fergus Falls, Minnesota. James Clark, making his MMA debut, was greeted to a rude awakening. Introduced to a sport that is built on respect for the martial arts, respect for the fighters that have the courage to enter the cage.
Him and his coach were standing behind me during the weigh-in. They were talking trash. Justin Smith's coach said, "Look at how small this guy is. You're going to crush him." And they were using profanity and saying, "Yeah, look at how small he is. You're twice as big as him. You're going to crush this effer."
You gotta shit talk to get into somebody's head, and he's tried to get into my head and haven't let him.
So I was nervous, and I saw him, walking around. I saw him before the fight. He had like triple X gloves, and big hands, big fists. So when I was in the cage, the first thing I wanted to do was get it to the ground, and so I shot on him and try to turn it into a wrestling match. So because of all the insults, I just started throwing bombs at him, and I knocked him out in 32 seconds.
That was a heck of a knockout. That was a beautiful knockout. And now at that point, most guys would, most likely, lick their wounds, crawl out of the cage, and go back to the drawing board. But not Justin Smith. What happened after you knocked him out in the cage?
Well, apparently he wasn't convinced, because he writes me on Facebook, says he wants a rematch, and so I wrote him back and just said that Nick Gamst is the fight promoter. He's the fight promoter for Brutal, and it's his decision who fights. I said, talk to Nick Gamst and the fight promoter and get it set up. So it's out of my hands, and so apparently that wasn't good enough. So he starts connecting to all my friends on Facebook, and he's like hounding them to give him my cell phone number.
Part of my job as a matchmaker is to set up fights, set up good fights. Some of those fights are rematches. Even better, sometimes those matches are grudge matches, and those make the easiest matches for me to set up.
Okay, so now he's insulting you, he's contacting your friends, and of course, you tell him it's up to the promoter. So did it stop there, or did it continue?
No, it continued for like a couple of months. Somebody gave him my cell phone number, and I have that cell phone next to my nightstand. I use it as an alarm clock. But he wakes me up at 2 in the morning, he's drunk, and he said he wants a rematch. And I said, I told you on Facebook, call Nick Gamst. Nick Gamst is the fight promoter. He sets up the fights, and it's out of my hands. But apparently he thought it was up to me, so he was calling me every night for a couple of weeks, or texting me, and even the text messages wake me up, because my cell phone, it lights up and it makes noises, and so he's waking me up, waking my family up at 2 in the morning. And so,
trying to get him to be a mad fighter, and because when you're a mad fighter, you don't, you concentrate on what that person said. Everything else, you get off your game, all that stuff. So
on Facebook, he writes my coach's wife. He tells her that he wants to kick her husband's ass. He's going to kick my ass, and he's telling her how beautiful he's hitting on my coach's wife, and that was over the top.
She hit me up on Facebook first, didn't realize who it was. Said some things to me that You know, a married woman should not say to another man.
This is exactly why we have set up this show.
The one thing that really offended me was him text messaging my coach's wife and flirting with her and hitting on her, telling her how beautiful she was, and that made my coach angry. It made his wife angry, and then I would hear about that at the gym, and it created a buzz at my gym, and that's when I called Nick Gamst myself and asked for the rematch.
Could this be bad judgment? Yes. Could this be in bad taste? Yes. And this is exactly why I set up the fight.
Go in the morning and train at 5:30 in the morning. Sometimes I even train 3 times a day. I'll go 5:30 in the morning. I'll do the cardio with my team. I'll go back and work with the MMA fighters from 10 to 12, and I'll come back and work specific arts like Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu at night, 6:30 at night to 8. So I train very hard. I take it seriously.
You're watching MMA Grudge Match.
So I texted him back and I go, so why aren't you showing up for the fight? He said he doesn't have a ride. And so I called up the Greyhound bus depot, and I was willing to, I figured how much it cost, from his town to, Somerset, Wisconsin. It was $100, and so I offered to pay him $100 for his bus ticket.
Still had another excuse.
Well, yeah, I mean, he said that he needed a ride in order to get even to the bus station so he could take the bus. And so then I talked to Nick Gamst, the fight promoter, and I go, look, I've got 40 people coming to this fight. 40 for sure, maybe even 50. And so
we need to find a way to get this guy there.
And so Nick Gamst even offered to go pick him up. Offered to go personally pick him up and drive him there. And then so his excuse was gone. Then you have to talk to Nick Gamst about that, but he basically told him that he wasn't going to go or didn't want to fight her.
But to just say that you don't have a ride, and then to have the guy you're going to fight offer to give you a ride and then not show up, that truly defines lack of character.
We backed out once, and I'm going to make sure he doesn't back out a second time. That is a pretty view, man. Hey, man, sorry to bug you during training, but what street do I turn? I turn right on what street again?
Every weeknight, 90 minutes of original shows in prime time that can't be missed. Big time dreams with the next level.
You're fighting a 46-year-old guy. How does that make you feel? You're fighting an old guy. I know it's a guy you don't particularly like. He doesn't particularly like you. Sorry, the Minnesota mosquitoes are like flat birds.
They are. I don't know. I mean, I go in there just looking at another fight. I don't go in there. I don't let the outside drama get in my head, get in the ring, because you go in there, you're fighting, you give the fans a show, you give them what they want. At the end of the night.
So leading up to this fight, like I know for a fact, just because, like I said, I've heard the stories about the text messages and the Facebook stuff. Tell me, so if it's not about the drama, then why the text messages? Why the Facebook stuff?
I really don't know. She hit me up on Facebook and said that, hey, she just asked me how I was doing. I started talking back, didn't think nothing of it, didn't know who she was at the time, and she started hitting on me. So, I, as a man, I did it back. And then I realized who she was and stuff like that, and he started threatening me, and I'm not going to back down from nobody. You start threatening me, it's on like Donkey Kong. So,
right
if he lets that stuff get to him, let it get to him. I'm concentrating on this fight. He's beat me once. I don't want him to beat me again. I want to show him that, hey, the first time was a joke. I got knocked out. Big deal. This time, it's your turn, big guy.
If you could have your perfect fight, if you could fantasize your fight, how would your fight with Jim Clark go?
My perfect fight would be, I don't know, 15 seconds, knockout.
Do you think? I mean, are you going to try to get into Jim's head at all? I mean,
I'm gonna try to get into his head as much as he can. You know, he got in my head the first time. I think it was like my second, third fight. I got psyched out a little bit. You know, this time it's on. Like, bring it on. I ain't scared of you. You know, I'll do whatever I need to do to win this fight.
both know. You know, I know for a fact there's a little bit of this right here that's pissed off, that doesn't like Jim Clark.
Yeah, there's a little bit of me that's pissed off. Don't get me wrong, I was pissed off. I wanted to beat his ass when he started this stuff. But you know, I'm not that type of person. You know, I'm a very calm person. I'm a very nice guy until you piss me off. When you piss me off, I'm gonna hurt you, and that's the bottom line.
So, in closing, do you think you're gonna text Jim late at night before this fight?
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see. I think I'm gonna screw with him in the first week. You know, the week before, and I'll get into his head a little bit. You know, and psych him out a little bit. You know.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. October 29th, Jim Clark, Justin Smith. It's going to be on Treasure Island Casino.
Team Punisher's coming out with a win.
At this point, I see that Justin's training, so I feel a lot better about the whole situation. We've made sure to set him up a ride. We've made sure to set up some equipment and some training for him. I mean, you shouldn't back out if you're the guy calling the other guy out anyway. If he does back out at this point, he is done fighting for Brutal.
I think he's going to need a priest. He's going to leave that cage feet first.
At this point, Justin Smith has to show up. I mean, it's not just a matter of pride anymore. If he does not show up, I can promise you, there is not a promoter in the state of Minnesota who is going to let this guy fight. I mean, the only reason that Nick is going to let him fight is because Jim wants to fight him that bad. Otherwise, this guy wouldn't even be able to get a phone call from us. So I'm telling you right now, I definitely think that the rematch is going to happen this time, because if it doesn't, this guy won't be able to go anywhere.
The match has been set. Both guys are training. Both guys are training hard. And this match is going to be settled once and for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to MMA Grudge Match.
The first man in the grudge match, weighing in right now, Justin Smith! 238 pounds, ladies and gentlemen, and his opponent tomorrow night, the man he has challenged again and again, Jim the Baby Ronald Clark, 220.2 pounds!
With a grudge match, you've got basically two choices. Number one, you could take it out to the streets. We all know what's going to happen with something like that. Or number two, you could take his cage right here, which is what James Clark and Justin Smith decided to do.
He sends me a text message. He goes, your mom was great. But then he spells it G-R-A-T. And so I texted him back. I said, we can just skip this fight and have a spelling contest.
What prompted you to send the text messages and the stuff that you did in order to, I mean, were you trying to call him out? Were you trying to make him angry?
Yes, I was trying to call him out, but at the same time, yes, I did want a rematch, because honestly, that
it's
fight,
definitely something that you're still upset with yourself about.
Yeah, I'm more upset at myself. Made some mistakes on the ground, overshot a lot of things. Let him get back up, shouldn't have done that. So hopefully he takes me to the ground, because if we go to the ground, the fight's mine, automatically. I've never been hit so hard in my life until I met him. Street fight, cage fight, I mean, I got heavy hands too, but, it's whether or not I can connect with him. Why am I gonna win? Because I know a little more what I'm doing this time when I'm in the cage.
Well, I assume he's going to show. He was here today, so I imagine he'll step in the cage. So as far as the outcome, I think the same thing will happen. I think I'll get the drop on him. I think I'll knock him out again.
So tomorrow night we are going to find out who the winner of this grudge match is going to be. And I guarantee you it is going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks,
ladies and gentlemen, Dr. James Clark. You're watching MMA Grudge Match.
The brutal MMA shows here at Treasure Island just keep getting bigger and better. And that is because we have gotten a ton of support from the Treasure Island Resort and Casino and some very special members of the Tribal Council. In today's live cage fighting, even more than Nick Gans, the ultimate trade with the best.
Because, you know, you're sorry about the situation, then fine, you can relax. But it sounds to me more like you're trying to talk your way out of the fight.
No, I'm not. This would have been more than this fight if I fight there. But, you know, like, at the same time, I don't want to go up there and get knocked out. Like, the 10 seconds of the match. That doesn't look good.
Right, but I don't think the first 10 seconds of the match is going to be something that's going to make a difference.
But, no,
At this point, Justin's blood pressure is slightly elevated. Whose wouldn't be on fight night? His girlfriend's sitting in the front row. His mom's sitting in the second row. Maybe he's thinking about all those text messages he sent to Jim. But I can't understand what he's thinking right now. He's thinking about backing out of the fight.
Drywall, yeah, so it's like, that's the thing.
they actually answer their
That was at my house. It's fucked up.
Well, you're the doctor. All you gotta do is
Fighting, not, all you is.
I got
It was like minutes before the fight was supposed to take place. My hands are wrapped. I have my gloves on. I'm warming up. My two cornermen are there, and he's walking by me in his street clothes. And you know, this is like, you know, the first fight is going on. Our fight was number 2 in the line. And he's walking by in his street clothes, and I just I said to him, "Aren't you going to get dressed for the fight?" And he just kind of glares at me and he goes, "Yeah," and then he walks out.
He just walked out of the casino. My life is flashing before my eyes. I'm feeling bad for Jim. I'm feeling bad for Jim's fans. I'm feeling bad for Justin's fan. Most of all, I'm feeling bad for my fans. The fans who came there to see a grudge get settled. At this point, I felt like chasing Justin down myself.
Talk to Nick. No, I looked for him.
fingers.
Now, basically at this point, Justin's here. He's come back. He's getting his hands wrapped. There is no way out. At this point, the only way out is by stepping into that steel cage first. The excitement is palpable. People are getting ready. This grudge match is finally going to happen. After all this anticipation, there is no way out except for in that cage. Because if you look like Justin Smith does and you try to leave this place right now, you're not getting out of here. No way.
Stands 5 feet 11 inches tall. He weighed in at 230 pounds, representing Team Punisher, fighting out of Wabasha, Minnesota, Justin Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, the grudge match has been settled. Daryl Guthmiller calls a stop to the bout at 42 seconds of the very first round, declaring your winner by tap out due to strikes, and representing the Crystal Fight Club, Jim the Baby Are you done with the smack talking yet, or do you want to get beat up a third time?
No, I'm done. Best man wins.
The best man did win. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that Justin Smith owes Jim Clark an apology. Justin, Jim, get in here. Come on. In this cage, rivalries are born and they also end. Justin, what do you have to say to Mr. Clark?
Sorry, Jim.
Hey, you know what, ladies and gentlemen? You can laugh all you want, but it takes a big man to apologize. It took a smaller man to beat him up, but you know what? He still apologized. Justin, thanks for coming out, bud.
So I feel a little bit bad about the fact that I had to give Justin a bunch of crap inside the cage, but you know what? He deserved it. I mean, I got to be honest. It's one of those things. If you're going to talk that much smack and you're going to do all those things to aggravate somebody to the point that he did with Jim Clark, I've got to call him out and I've got to say something to him in the cage.
At this point, the fight is over. The fight is over quickly. The fight is over without incident. And I think that this grudge is finally settled.